We have our members here. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is October 12th, and this is the meeting of the Concord Historical Commission. My name is Alan Bogosian, and I believe we have a quorum now, Anne, because they're Jesse, myself, and Michael. Welcome to the members and visitors. And I'd like the members to identify themselves. My name is Alan Bogosian. And Michael?
My name is Michael Capizzi.
Tessie Cataldo.
And I'm Nancy Nelson.
And those are the members that are here. We have quite a full agenda this evening. And what's next on the agenda, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and then we have a letter of intent for nominating the Minuteman National Historical Park to the National Trust list of America's most endangered places with the help of Anna West Winter. And I don't know if there's any discussion on that, but I opened it up for discussion.
Nancy, are you happy with the letter?
Yes, I'd love to see the whole letter signed. It was submitted electronically, I guess Ann said, but I was going to try to call Anna Rasmussen to see if she had a hard copy. I'd like to see the photos, and I think you guys might like to see what photos were actually submitted. So the park was on this most endangered list, and I do know that the National Trust was interested in having this nomination, and it's the first round. It's the first round.
I have two questions. Do you need to see that before you feel comfortable voting on it?
No.
Okay.
Because on our website is one that Alan did sign, although it doesn't show his signature. I like to see the signature in the pictures, so I'll wait. But I know he did sign it.
And is it my understanding we need to vote on this as soon as possible? Is that correct? Is there
you already voted on it at the special meeting?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we're okay until we hear anything about the next round.
Okay, but I didn't know if we had a vote on whatever was before us now. Okay.
This is more information and for discussion.
Right.
If there's no other discussion, everyone's good with it, we can move on to the second item on the agenda. Hi, Nancy.
What time is it?
You're muted.
I don't know. It's
Is
about
it
midnight.
2 in the morning? 2 in
No,
the
it's
morning?
midnight.
Oh, it's not that bad.
So the second agenda is the
I'm a
letters.
late nighter.
Yeah.
And the letters of support for the commission application to CPC for the historical preservation survey of the reported pre-1775 structures. So let's open this up for discussion and let it begin.
Right, I'm actually wondering if you have any suggestions on who we should reach out to for letters of support. I think the HTC is a logical group, of course, and maybe the History and Education Committee for 2025. And if you have any other suggestions, that would be great.
At this time, I don't, because I haven't put it all together yet. But are there any other suggestions from people?
I think there's still time. Do you remember? And I should know this because it's CPC, but I think there's still time for letters of recommendation.
Right, it's through mid-November. So if you do think of anything in the next week or so, just let me know and I'll reach out to other folks. Because of course, the Historical Commission submitted an application back in September, on September 8th, to the
Mhm.
CPC to fund a historic preservation survey, to sort of follow up on the historic preservation plan that's happening this year. And I can give an update on that, I guess, under other business.
Okay, okay.
Who wrote letters of support for the last application?
I'm not sure that we even requested letters of support.
Because it went to this directly to the state, didn't it? Or was it CPC? I think so.
There were two separate grant applications.
Oh,
One
50
went
and
to the state and
25.
one went to CPC.
Yeah, that's right.
So it may not be necessary because you're such a well-respected group, of course. and hopefully they agree that it's a good proposal, so, and project.
I don't know if Ryan had any other input on that or not. But
Don't know.
I could ask him.
I would say that there is a very, very heavy ask if you look at the housing, in particular, the housing requests, and also for nuts and bolts and boards and whatnot for historical preservation. So there's a lot of requests out there.
I don't know, but would they come to a general area for us?
I'm sorry, would they what?
Would they come to a general area where we could, the request?
Well, I think our request is in, and then there are going to be hearings. And I should have brought my calendar, but there will be hearings and there are presentations. So I could send around, there have been some, there have been the first batch of presentations to CHC, and let's see, the town documents request, that's a historic preservation one. The Concord Middle School athletic fields, that's going to be, and the 250th trees, and the metal structures to fix the gates at the cemetery. Rod knows all about that. And the Concord Art Association has a request in as well. And then there's the Affordable Housing Buy Down Program, which is one of the big housing housing projects that's proposed.
Okay. Well, while we're talking about that, do you want to, we can move to item number 4, where the request for the Historical Commission letters of support for those other issues, the cemetery metal structures, the preservation and reproduction of historic town documents, for the town and the town archives. We can open this up for discussion.
So I think Rod Rydell is here to deliver a presentation on the Concord Cemetery application.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a PowerPoint that he would like me to share.
Okay. Rod, you're muted.
I hope I'm unmuted now. Thank
There
you.
you are.
Thank you. So my name is Rod Rydell. I'm at 324 Main Street, and I chair the Cemetery Committee. And as a representative of the Cemetery Committee, I'm representing the Department of Public Works tonight at this meeting to request a letter of support from the Historical Commission for our CPA funding request this year. So if we could go, if you could just share the slides, and we could go to the second slide. We wanted to prepare this so that we could briefly review these topics, and we're very conscious that we want to conserve your time. So first of all, on behalf of the committee and the Department of Public Works, we want to thank the Historic Commission's recent letter of support, which led in spring of this year to a grant of $340,000 from CPC, which is a matching grant. We supplied $343,000 from alternative sources for cemetery stone wall restoration. And that project has started with all of the administrative infrastructure being put in place for procurement and for the types of financial work that needs to go on. I'll just point out that's only half of the estimated cost of all of the structures to be repaired. We'll come back to either CPC or some alternative funding source for the remainder once we see how we do with this first 50% of that project. We also thank you folks for your time and your energy to review our new CPA grant request this year, which is to conduct an evaluation of all the cemetery metal structures, and for considering our current request for a letter of support. Could I have the next slide, please? So our project goal is very explicit and very brief. We want to evaluate every metal structure in Concord's 3 historic cemeteries, and the 2 that are in the center of town, Old Hill Burying Ground and the South Burying Ground, and of course, Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. Next slide, please. As you well know, these cemeteries have great historical significance for both our town and our state and our country, as was succinctly and very expertly described by your former chair last year when the Historical Commission wrote a letter of support. We talked about this in committee. We said we can't write it any better. We're just going to give it back to you. So thank you for that description last year. Next slide, please. So what is the proposed evaluation? We want to work with an assessor. A good example of an assessor is an engineering company like Wright Pierce. That's a placeholder right now. We'll probably have to go through the standard town procurement process to find an appropriate assessor. But the assessment is going to be to look at every structure and recommend repair or restoration or replacement, and to estimate the cost. And very importantly, to note the historic structure issues that have to be addressed with each of these structures, whether it's repair, restore, or replace. Next slide, please. Now, the evaluations that are proposed in this application are 21. There's one in South Burying Ground, and my apologies, my typo. In South Burying Ground, it's the perimeter fence, not the gate. The Old Hill Burying Ground is the gate. It's actually a missing gate right now, and you'll see that in the next slide. And then in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, there are 19 structures: perimeter fences, entry gates, a door, bollards and chains, handrails, and plot fences. Next slide, please. So here's examples of some of the structures. The South Burying Ground has a cast iron perimeter fence that goes along Main Street. This is adjacent to Middlesex Bank, and that has missing sections, missing pieces. It has pieces that have rusted through. It has pieces that are bent. So we need to have that evaluated. The gate at the Old Hill Burying Ground is missing. And that was actually removed by the town over 100 years ago and replaced with those 3 granite posts to prevent children who were sledding down the hill from the cemetery into the center of town. So we still want to see what it would cost to restore and replace and find a restoration for that, with or without removing those granite posts. Those are examples. Next slide, please. Here's an example in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, Pritchard Gate, which arguably is the most heavily used gate in the cemetery, the gate of entrance for most of our memorial ceremonies. And that gate has basically corroded through. There are holes right through the metal structure. Another example, something that you drive past all the time, are the granite posts and the chains. And these are recent additions. They're only several decades old, but yet they're still showing rust and corrosion. Next slide, please. So our funding request is $25,000. We're asking CPA funds for $22,500 and other funds that we're supplying for $2,500. And I'll just take a moment. This is a small funding request, but we don't know what the cost will be to restore these structures. And we just didn't think it would be courteous or ethical to go to the town with a large request saying, you know, we've got an air pull. We'd rather come to the town once we have an estimate and determine whether the town can help us or whether we need to go to an alternative funding source. We don't know whether this is a several $100,000 or substantially more than that for this request. So this is just to lay out the ground and basically do a scouting effort. Next slide, please. And so that concludes our presentation. Just two other examples. There are many stair handrails. Of course, rust and corrosion here is a major safety issue for folks that are using these steps. And then there's the historic receiving tomb door. Some of you may have seen this. This has been, the tomb was traditionally used where bodies were stored during the wintertime until things had thawed out and graves could be dug. But that door is very much corroded and needs to have some type of repair or restoration performed. So thank you very much for your attention, and happy to answer any questions or any concerns that you may have.
Nancy?
Ron, could you tell us a little bit more about Wright Pierce's experience with such structures?
We don't have any, I don't have any specific, I'm just using them as a placeholder. We use them as a, the evaluator 2 years ago to evaluate the stone walls. Yeah. And they and we're using them as a placeholder. But the stone structures, it was only cost the town $2,500 to do the evaluation. You don't have to worry about historic. All the stones that were dislodged are basically there. So it's not a question of replacing, or it's just a question of repairing the walls. Here, we're using them as an example of such an engineering firm, and we're basically multiplying the budget by 10 because we don't know how much research is going to have to be done by the engineering company. And there's one other point. We were looking into repair of the gate at the knoll, the final gate on Bedford Road, the new section of Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. Believe it or not, that gate already needs repair. And the issue of what are you going to do for coating, a metallic coating that is historically appropriate and is effective at preventing corrosion, has consumed a whole year of discussion and investigation. So we did not want to get in. We did not want to ask for more than just an initial evaluation, so we could lay out what our goal was here.
I would just remind you, and if you don't already know, that the National Park did some wrought iron restoration projects several years ago. And there are people who are very, very competent craftsmen with historic structures.
Thank you. So noted. Appreciate it.
I can maybe ask about that.
That would be fantastic. Just forward that information to us, and we'll make sure that Public Works gets it.
Okay. Yep. Great.
Nancy?
I'm just wondering, you talked about the gate being lost at the bottom of the old Burying Hill Cemetery, that it's been lost for 100 years.
It was removed by the town over 100 years ago. Yeah, removed.
Oh, okay.
Removed
because it just wasn't, it was already rusting or something?
No, it was removed, and there were 3 granite posts that were placed in place of it to prevent children from sledding down the hill and going out into the center of the town.
By that'd stop them. Wow.
Yeah, and there's no railing on that path, right?
No railing.
It is very steep, and I know in the winter, a few times I've wanted to go up there in the winter, and it is treacherous.
It is, and so we're not talking about installing any new metal structures, but rather just addressing the state of repair of the existing ones.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we can get a hold of images that of what the old gate looked like.
Yes,
Look at
I,
special
I,
plans.
yeah, I don't have that on my computer at this time, but I can follow up, and if you'd like, once we get it, we can forward it to the
I
commission.
think that would be interesting
Okay.
to see
Okay.
what they look like, what it looked like.
Okay.
Joe, I just have one other thought too. I just wrote, how old is the Knoll section of Sleepy Hollow? When was that?
That is a great question. The Knoll Gate was put up in 1998, so it's in the 1990s that the Knoll was opened.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Disappointing that the gate's already failing.
No, it's sobering. You know, it's
Oh.
just a sobering fact. And this came to our attention because the Friends of Sleepy Hollow had donated some metal work that goes on top of the gate, which says Sleepy Hollow, in the historical form of the lettering which was traditionally used in the cemetery, and that was installed. And during this time, then this whole discussion is like, we're installing this on a gate that is already deteriorating. What are we going to do? And the decision was made, well, let's install it, and then we'll conduct this review, we'll repair it or replace it, and we'll remove the Sleepy Hollow lettering, we'll put it on the new or restored gate. So this is a multi-year project for sure, but we've got to get started, and this is our first step.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Jesse? Mike?
No comments. I echo Melissa's well-written statement in the PowerPoint.
Do we want to take a vote on this, or?
To write the letter? I don't know, can't vote.
For the support for the letters, we have to write a letter for the support, right? That's.
Does Ann, do we need a vote?
I think it would help if you did.
Good.
And especially even for the next one, just voting on the historical significance of the cemeteries. I know that maybe not every piece of metal is going to be historic, but I think that the cemeteries themselves are historic. So you could argue that this is a rehabilitation project. If you agree with that, Nancy.
I'd have to go back and double check. If mostly you're trying to preserve instead of rehabilitate. Is it more preservation, Rod? It seemed like it was, but rehabilitation is a much broader category. So rehabilitation is what's really emphasized in the CPC law, and all the discussions revolve around rehabilitation. Would you agree with that, Anne? There's not much written about preservation or restoration.
Right. And I think you can see this as sort of a rehabilitation of the landscape rather than focusing specifically on each metal structure. If you understand what I'm saying, like think of like the broad picture, and that the landscapes are certainly historic, even if not every piece of metal within it is historic. Because I never mind.
Well, the cemetery itself is historic. So
right. So I think that's
rehabilitating structures within this much broader historical cemetery.
Yes.
It couldn't hurt to just emphasize that.
Right. I think that would be how the letter of support would need to be phrased.
We would need a motion to do something like this to. Ann?
Yes, I think that would be wise to do.
Yeah. Does anyone wish to make a motion?
I make a motion that we vote on whatever it is that we need to vote on it. Were there two items? Huh? Were
Well,
there
there's
two
three.
items that we were voting on?
2 items, the cemetery metal structures
Right.
and the
So,
preservation and reproduction of historic town documents.
And I can
There-
describe the second one or Nancy could.
Which one?
Right, so I think
have
that there
to-
should maybe be two separate votes, one for the cemetery survey. And then a second one, once we present it, for the town documents. Because the letter of support would need to verify that these places and documents are historically significant.
And that's what the commission would need to say in the letter, I think, because it doesn't normally cover the restoration of documents and stuff. I mean, that might be correct, right? Or is it just the categorizing and cataloging? But anyway, it would make sense to use that language, I think. That we would say that these documents were definitely historic and important.
So,
But I think start with the cemeteries and then I'll
Right.
describe the documents and then you can determine whether or not they are historically significant. And we're
Michael,
not
do
there
we
yet.
have a motion, Michael?
yes,
from you
I
on-
take,
Okay, does anyone second it?
I second it.
Okay, Nancy, we can take a vote on it.
okay,
Nancy,
I'm in favor. Okay.
That Nancy can vote. I
right,
think I cannot.
Yes, I vote in favor.
I vote in favor.
Who's missing?
I would, but I don't think I can either.
Oh,
Oh, are you an associate?
I'm
too?
an associate member too.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
yeah. And
Yeah.
we also have to consider item number 3, which is the historic preservation survey. Right? And was asking, are you asking for a letter of support for our own?
No,
Or
no,
who you should reach out to?
right, any sort
Yeah,
of
okay, that's fine.
recommendation for
Yeah,
who
yeah.
you-
Yeah, because we've already sort of voted on the application. Okay,
Right.
okay, good, sorry.
Well, Alan, thank you, and committee members, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and appreciate your support and suggestions, and we'll get on with it. Thank you.
Thanks,
for
Rod.
coming.
Could I ask him a question?
Sure.
Because you said suggestions. Do you see that most of the work being done that you have already scoped out or evaluated being done by contractor? I don't mean any specific contractor, being done by people that are hired, or is there work, there's a reason I'm asking, that needs to be done, let's say, by volunteers, whether it's cleaning off some of these stones or do that? Have you ever done volunteer work at all? And there's a reason I'm asking, or is it usually contracted out?
It's a great question, and one that I addressed about a year ago, as a member of the cemetery committee.
Right.
So there's a lot of interest in volunteers helping out
Right.
with the cemetery,
Okay.
and it's fantastic. It's finding appropriate opportunities for them. So to give you an example, the historic treatment of gravestones, either their repair or their cleaning or their replacement, like for example, after the trees fell and knocked over some graves, that's all being done by an expert who does anywhere from 20 to 30 gravestones a year.
Mhm.
And we're getting, so that's a cumulative work, and it's
Right.
been sent out for bids. The stone work, we had to, we tried with some volunteers, but the task was swamped the volunteer effort. I personally have been trying to get things going on the landscape, the ground
Right.
cover,
Right.
which is a big issue and it's a
Right.
big challenge.
Right.
But it turns out that that's even larger than what we can accommodate with our volunteers. So unfortunately, everything that we're doing now, it really helps to have a grant which protects the money.
Right,
And then you get a contract and you hold people to that.
sure. Okay.
I'll give you one other example. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to take up your time, but I
No, no,
just
no,
want you to
no.
understand
There's a reason I'm asking, and I'll
Yep.
explain, and then we can,
Yep.
move on.
So as an example, we originally planned to conduct this evaluation and assessment using money in the budget. Right. And two things happened. It became clear as we started thinking about what was being done that we were going to need more than $2,500. And then two things happened. We had the tree damage this year that from the storm, and there was a drainage issue that was urgent. And so something like this, which is important but not necessarily urgent, always gets displaced by the
Right.
by the needs of the
funds.
day, and there are always urgent needs,
Right.
in the cemetery. So we're
Sure.
trying to protect this effort
Right.
and see if we can't get it done over the next 5 years.
So why don't I just say this while I'm here, rather than call you tomorrow, and then people
Okay.
can say, okay. So recently, a new financial institution in town reached out to me to connect them to the community to provide up to 100 volunteers for any event or any task with the appropriate notice. I connected them. By the way, they reached out to me not as a member of the commission, but just as somebody who lives in Concord and knows them. I connected them with Minuteman Park, and they've already been providing volunteers to do certain things over the last several months. And I connected them with the library. And again, we met and we explained up to 100 volunteers for any event or any task that needs to get done with appropriate notice. So I will say to you, rather than call you tomorrow, so someone says I didn't do this, I'll say it on the record, that if in fact there is a reason that you would ever need up to 100 volunteers, and someone can tell me if it's appropriate, and this entity is already working with Minuteman Park and working with the library, then they would be happy to do it, and I would be happy to make that connection. And I'm sure anybody on the commission would want to, help save and preserve every aspect of these cemeteries. So,
Thank you very much. Bring
welcome.
it back. I'll bring it back to the committee and
Right.
And the Public Works personnel, and we'll be in touch.
Great.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Nancy?
Is there a name of the organization?
Yes, it's called J.P. Morgan Chase Bank. Yeah, the largest financial institution in the world.
The only thing I would say about that is do they only come in batches of 100?
No, they will offer from 1 to 100 with the appropriate notice.
Right. That's great. That's great.
Right. And they've already done work at Minuteman Park, and it's already been in the newspaper, so.
And aren't they also Habitat for Humanity, Michael, as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but in Concord, when they initially reached out, I brought them to the chamber, we met. I brought them to Minuteman Park, we met, and I brought them to the library, thinking that, they clearly, with all that we know that they've done and what they may need, that this would be great because it would save them. And then the institution did say, once they get involved, then if and when they see that they have some initiative that they could evaluate for funding down the road, then that would be something to be looked at once they had a relationship. And I'm not saying they're happy to fund things. What they're happy to do is get involved with the community, initially get to understand the mission, get to understand the tasks, get to understand, what the agenda may be, and then every, whatever it's sort of 6 months or every year, evaluate different requests by different entities to see what they want to fund over the next things. But they clearly want to be involved, and they started to get involved. And clearly working on the cemetery would be a tremendous honor and an opportunity.
Yep.
And I'll stop talking. All right, Nancy?
Well, thank you.
They
Thank you.
talked to Nancy Lee, Priscilla Lee.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
So let's move on to the town documents. Anne?
Right, I remembered that last year, town council had advised that the historical commission provide a letter of support for the restoration of the documents that the town archivist had requested funding for last year. So I assume that this year will be the same thing. So I offered to bring it before you for him tonight. So I don't know if you all had a chance to take a look at the proposal, which is on the website, but you really just need to sort of weigh in on whether, these documents are historically significant or not. And so I'll just describe them to you here on his, I guess I could bring it up, the application, just 1 second. So it's an application for $8,000 for the conservation treatment, digitization and print reproduction of 2 documents. One is a broadside printing of the Declaration of Independence from 1776, owned by the town, which is pretty amazing. And then the second document is the non-importation covenant dated June 27th, 1774, which is signed by the residents of the town and declares their intent to suspend commercial dealing with Great Britain. So you all want to, and then I suppose his reproductions of the documents here aren't very good quality, but that actually shows you precisely the need to preserve them and digitize them so that they are available to the public. And by digitizing them, they'll be handled less frequently, right? And they're so that's a preservation measure too.
And I think the town council was probably only concerned about the aspect of digitizing, I think. Because the documents themselves are clearly historic, and I think they're even explicitly historical. So, but to be clear, that when you start digitizing them and doing all kinds of other things with them so people can see them all over the world, that's when.
What happens to the originals at that point?
That's precisely the point, is that the originals do not need to be handled. So digitization is a preservation measure. They can be, locked away and put in climate controlled conditions, and light condition where the light conditions are low, and better security.
Mm-hmm.
So other towns like the town of Cambridge, they put in a lot of funding there for digitization. So that, and other town, I know that the historical commission does it in Concord, in Cambridge, and also like town clerks often use CPC funds to digitize records too, so that the original is preserved and that their contents are widely available. So it's not an unusual request at all.
Mm-hmm. Nancy?
I couldn't see all the information because it was scrolled too fast. So I'm interested because I have experience in paper conservation and conservation training. So where the documents, are they held in the library in special collections?
Yes.
They're owned by the town, but they're placed
special.
in special collections.
Okay. So, and the documents, I didn't know we had those, so that they're interesting. Can you forward that information just to us, just for fun, so we can read it? I'd like to read it more closely. I'm assuming that the documents themselves, the paper has received proper conservation treatment in the past, and I think I saw that it's the enclosures that need attention. And I work at the American Antiquarian Society, and they always digitize things, and sometimes just to digitize a book you have to repair the book first before you handle it, but these are just single sheets. So I can see the need. I don't see any problem. I'm just interested in the details. We definitely need to approve this. Yes.
But Nancy, just as when you digitize something, how do they, because when you digitize it, it's very consistent. You don't have the different color fluctuations when you digitize something. What you digitize is what you get on the other end for that.
Specialists for that, I don't know, you know, at the American Antiquarian Society, they have an outside group that has space. I mean, they're just there for years, and the conservators feed them the documents or the books, and they repair them first, or to make sure that they're safe to handle before they're photographed.
Right.
But they're professionals at that, so they know how to deal with the lighting and everything.
I think they did expect that they would look the same, because if they didn't, it wouldn't, I mean, it wouldn't be satisfactory
Right.
viewing public. So I think they've figured that out.
Yeah.
And the conservation work would be done by the Northeast Document Conservation Center, which is very well
I
respected.
was wondering, yeah. Okay.
But
You're saying the conservation, well, that's what I'm confused about, because the documents themselves don't need conservation. You're saying that the enclosures need.
But that's what they do. They protect those documents that, you know, they protect them as well as restore them.
Right, they do both. Yeah, okay.
I believe the application does say that it is for conservation treatment.
Okay, so maybe they are going to do something further.
They
Okay.
look, we were actually able to see them when CPC went on site visits, and they're really fun to look at, because it's really rather striking. I mean, that's not the right word, but yeah, it was really amazing to see them and see all the signatures and people who were saying they would never have anything from Britain, England. So it was pretty special.
So if there's no further discussions, do we have a motion for?
I can make a motion, sure. I move that we write a letter in support of conserving these documents that have significant historic value. Is that enough?
And I would second
Second
that.
it. Oh,
Okay.
I'll third it.
Yeah. We can vote. I vote in the affirmative.
I vote in the affirmative.
Me too.
Okay, Ian?
That's great,
And-
thank you.
Now the next tercentenary markers and Jethro Tree, and Nancy, God bless you for staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Happy to do that. So I don't know exactly. I think something prompted this discussion tonight, because I had requested that it be continued until November when I got back, and Melissa is not here too. So I don't know. I know that a letter was or a complaint was made to, I don't know who, to the town. I don't know how that person made a complaint, a visitor, about the signs in the center of town. So I don't know how you want to proceed. Yeah.
Well, so I didn't want to interrupt you, but Anne, can you address that?
Yes, so so the deputy town manager has asked, she realizes that there are many stakeholders here, and she's got a close working relationship with the select board, obviously, and so it's not just one committee, there are multiple committees that need to weigh in. So she would like to get the input from this committee, of course, and others, and then pool all of that input and put together a letter to the select board, coming directly from the town, with, of course, all of your amazing input and the research and everything that you've done. And the town is most grateful for everything that you've done. So she had asked me to come to you tonight just to determine whether you support the concept of removing the 3 tercentennial markers and installing temporary replacement markers that, explain, the situation and perhaps, well, that hasn't even been worked out yet at this point. But the point is that we, if we only remove them, then it could come across as another form of erasure, right? And so we want culture, Concord wants to be sure that it comes across in a positive manner, and that is not its intent. And so that PR piece needs to happen, the communications piece needs to happen, and some sort of marker or statement needs to be on that site so that, we're obviously going to get many, many questions. So that's the question to you all is.
So I just want to start. So she came to you, and when you say that there's more than one group that needs to come together, specifically it's our commission. What other bodies? The DEI commission has already weighed in, and I'm really surprised that Joe is not here tonight, because I've been emailing back and forth with him today and he told me he was going to be here. This is something that their commission the DEI commission has already sent us a letter, and he is, wants this done sooner rather than later. He pointed out to me a few things today. One, next month is Native American Appreciation Month. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but so he thinks symbolically next month, he's pushing me to encourage everyone here to vote tonight. So I just want to be clear about which groups need to co-sign the letter. That's my first point. My second question to you, I'm not quite sure that I understand this point about a second level of cultural erasure, because writing replacement language, even if it's temporary, is going to require a lot of work and a lot of different voices. I don't think that's going to be easy. And so I'm just wondering if everyone who is in agreement that we can't take the signs down first, and then when we all get together and agree on language, then we'll put something up as soon as we can. We'll try to do it quickly, but why we need to wait to take the signs down before that happens, because that could be another prolonged process. Joe has pointed out, I don't know, that's why I was wondering what prompted this to go on tonight's meeting, because he has told me that since our meeting last month, that someone has come to made this complaint about the markers. And I don't know what that process is, who that person went to. So I don't know if that's I think it is something that's been documented by the town, but I don't know in what form. And I think that's important. Yeah, so I don't know, Chessie, you weren't here for last month's meeting, but you probably read the report, and I don't know if are you familiar with do you need any other further updates?
No, I think, I read I've read what's on the website, what's been posted. So I think I'm largely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. And I also want to tell everyone that since last month, I realized that I think I explained that when I wrote the statement of purpose, I was thinking that we were going to have a vote that night. And so I wrote it in, saying that that the commission was recommending. And then after that meeting, the commission did not recommend that. So I completely rewrote it because that wasn't appropriate that I put that in. So, and I just haven't sent it out to you because I just wanted to wait and see what all of the background was, if there was something that I didn't know, because I don't want to keep bombarding you with things to read until we're really ready. So those are my things. We can vote tonight and agree. I certainly think that we should. I have no problems. I think that the markers need to come down. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't, why we need to wait. So I think that's what we need to discuss. And
right. So I think this was discussed last week, and clearly Anne referenced this in her communication today. Am I correct, Anne?
What's that? Board,
With your communication today that the deputy town manager wants us to vote
yes,
on,
exactly.
right, okay, on removing the signage and doing some temporary replacements. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I make a motion that,
Hold on, Nancy,
Go ahead.
Nancy,
Well, we
Nancy.
could have discussion after the motion's made too, I guess.
Good. We're still discussing, so.
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Nancy?
I really feel like we are a bunch of white people talking about this, and I would like to hear more from the Native communities. I think this is a broader effort and that doesn't just involve Concord. I don't know exactly which signs are coming down. The one that talks about the weir, is that one? The fishing weir where Concord began to build its dam? Is
Right,
that
so-
one to come down? I don't understand why that's offensive. I think there's no urgency here. There is an urgency, but not necessarily tonight, and we're missing a person who has also a lot of background, and I think as a committee, it's not that hard to get our committee together, all together, and I think this is a really important topic. And some of you have heard this. I had a Navajo friend once when white people were beginning to think they couldn't say Indian anymore, and we all had to say Native American. And I asked my friend who was Navajo, I said, what do you think about this conversation? And he said, it really doesn't matter to us because you guys get it wrong anyway. So I'm very careful about moving forward with this without input. I recently saw from, I forget the name of the organization, but there was a Wampanoag member of this organization who was invited to give a speech to the Pilgrim folks up at Pilgrim Rock for their annual gathering. And he wrote that speech and gave it to them. And they said, you know, you can't give this speech. And he said, well, I'm not getting this speech. So it was suppressed. He didn't give it. But in his speech, he referred many times to Indian lands, Indian customs, whatnot, using that term. Now, some people think that's a horrible thing to say now. I can't speak, but I've heard it before. I think maybe it was part of what this complaint was about, but I'm not sure. So maybe we can know a little bit more about what the complaint actually was. And I would be okay with putting a sign under the white signs that we have deemed are offensive to the Native population, although I don't see too many of us in that category. But if we had just a little sign attached underneath those that said the language and the accuracy of this sign is being reviewed, or something like that, that might help people understand. Like if they all disappeared, I'm not sure anybody would notice, but I worry about just taking them all down without consultation.
So may I ask a question? Anne, it has not been determined that the verbiage on the signs is discriminating. Is that what I'm hearing? It has not been determined, or it has been determined?
Well, some
Can I
people have.
weigh in for a second? First of all, I'd like to hear it from Jessie, because she hasn't,
Well, maybe she hasn't looked at. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You want to hear it from
If
Chessie?
she-
Okay,
if she wants
Chessie.
to- I'd like to give
That-
her a chance because she wasn't at the last meeting.
know,
so
But I understand, but I asked Anne, and then you can ask Chessie, or
Okay.
should we ask Chessie?
Okay, great.
Then I'll ask Anne,
I'll wait,
however
I'll
way
wait,
you want
I'll
to do
wait.
it.
I'll wait.
Okay, Anne,
Okay.
has it been determined that the verbiage in some of these signs or one sign is discriminating?
Well, that's part, I think, of what you are looking at, and also the diversity, equity, inclusion group is looking at. And of course, there was a complaint, and there are articles that Nancy has tracked down.
Do you know what the complaint was? Can you elaborate on that?
I don't know the specifics of it. I do know something about the word Indian, but I have heard, as Nancy has said, that, you know, I've
Indians
heard
use
Native
the
American
word.
people use that word. So
Well, I have
I'm
something
not
to
sure
say
if
about that,
that's
but
an
I'll wait.
actual
I'll
problem or
wait
not.
about that, but I just wanted to clarify that. Okay.
Nancy, I appreciate you asking that. I don't have any, I don't have anything hugely of substance to add. I had the same thought as Nancy of, instead of kind of rushing to take things down, whether there's a way that we can denote that that we understand, the town understands, the community understands that there are problematic aspects, potential problematic aspects, and that it's under consideration by, I don't know if we want to list the commissions that are looking at it. I don't know if we want to invite comment or, but I also kind of hear you saying that we don't have everyone that we need to have this like a full, robust discussion. I wasn't sure when I saw it on the agenda, I wasn't exactly sure what we would be discussing tonight or what we're deciding. I missed the last discussion, but this feels slightly rushed.
So I had asked, I just want to make it clear, I had determinedly asked to have it postponed for two reasons. One, I'm not paying full attention because I'm not in the country. And the second reason is that Melissa is not here, and she has been a strong part of this.
Mhm.
So I too agree. I'm fully on board with Nancy. Actually, I'm of two minds. I'm going to backtrack. I'm not in full agreement, actually. Sorry.
This would be good. That's two
Here's-
minds. You have
Here's
two
the
opinions.
problem.
Yeah.
So
you have
one
two.
is that I would, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. I don't know. We can take a vote and maybe and see where we come out. And if we voted, I would vote in favor of adding our voice to removal. If Joe were here, and I'm really surprised that he's not here, he is very forcefully saying I listened to his commission, the last commission meeting where they discussed this. And to Nancy's point about you feel uncomfortable that white people are discussing this. Deciding. Okay, sorry. I need to be more careful with the way that I say this. They had a discussion about this, so you might want to go and listen to that recording. And Jimmy Two Feathers, who I don't know, was there. And he at the meeting said, and they talked about, he was the token Concord Native American. He said, well, gee, maybe I need to show up. I wish that they were here. I'm disappointed that more people aren't coming. This is to me a big weight on my shoulders because I've spent so much time thinking about it. I've read a lot of literature, and I can tell you that very clearly, if you spend time reading the literature, the term Indian is used, so that's not a problem. I agree with you. The term squaw, our commission has discussed that too, and I've talked to several people, and I've looked that up. And while it is by most people considered a derisive term, in the Wampanoag culture or local, I found very specific articles saying that it's a tribal thing, and in the context of Concord in that situation, it might not actually be a term that is disagreed upon by scholars. So I'm just going to move on from that. Another point that I want to make is that some of you, if you haven't read the literature and spent time with it as I have, Christine DeLucia, who is a professor at Williams College, I really think that everybody thinking about this needs to read her articles, because she wrote about them, published them. She's a professional historian, and I give her, she deserves, attention, and we all have to be responsible and read her articles, because it's about the we are. If you want to understand that article, that sign, you have to read her article. And I had asked Anne to play a clip from a talk. I didn't realize last time that I spoke that she actually in 2020 gave a talk at the Concord Museum, and a book talk about her book called Memory Lands, and she addressed the markers. And I picked out the specifics from that link, and maybe, Anne, you could hear that, because one of the things that we agreed last time was that we would take the time and do more fact gathering. And so that was one of the reasons why I wanted to wait until November. I didn't want to discuss it tonight because I hadn't done that. And it's hard work. It's hard to get a hold of those people. So I don't know who, Nancy, I agree with you that it would be wonderful if we could get those people to weigh in, but how do we go about doing that, and who's going to do that work?
Well, I think those are important questions. We can't go around. I feel very well, you know how I feel.
Well, so I want to just say something. I wrote this down before tonight's meeting, and I want to just emphasize what Christine says in this talk that you're going to hear. About the markers. She says both the markers both tell history and conceal history. And then she says they tell a narrative that demonizes Native people. Those are her words, not my words. Demonize Native people, presenting them as antagonists in a simplistic way. And then she ends by saying, what if we had a series of community conversations that could much more substantively get into what is being told and what is being erased by these markers? I would love for someone to take that project up to help galvanize this work. And I think that is exactly what we are doing. Our commission is doing. That's what I've been doing. That's what Joe Palumbo has been doing. And that Concord can lead that action if we're willing to. So I've really tried hard in my report to be comprehensive. The bibliography is completely comprehensive. You can go to links and hear these things, read these books. I know you don't want to hear me talk, go on talking, but that's the information. I've done this work. And so if others are asking, I just have to say that I want to try to get this rolling. I don't want it to take up so much time. So can we just play those links so that it's not just me speaking? That would be great.
Do you want, okay.
Let's see.
Oh, that's our place.
So we invite everyone who's watching to come to our.
Can you turn the volume up?
We're going to end with 3 examples of, and again, we'll have to be brief, Christine, but I have 2 of these markers, so Allison, you could show both. One of them is actually from Concord. And you've written a whole wonderful article that if people are interested, they can email Allison. And Concord is at the center of your article, but why don't you explain what these markers are and your concerns about them?
I became fascinated by these tercentenary signs that were installed across Massachusetts in 1930 as part of the 300th anniversary of the founding of the Massachusetts egg colony. They're all over the place, and I'm sure people have seen them. They're really distinctive with these dark borders. They've got the seal in the center, and they both tell history and conceal history. So the article that I wrote, and I also talk about these in the book a little bit, is about these as arguments about place rather than factual representations of what happened here. These are signs that are intended to convince people of certain stories about the past, and much of that story in the case of the Jethro's Tree sign is insisting on the legality of purchase, right? Major Simon Wood and his associates bought from the Indians these 6 miles of land square in 16.
Just lost her. Did anybody else lose sound?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't
Yes,
hear.
yeah, no sound.
It was featured in the news last summer.
Sorry, should I review? Should I go back?
yeah, go back halfway.
Sorry, I thought I was just muting myself, but I guess
Oh, dear.
on the screen. All right, back to here.
There's both, you know,
Does this
grains
look
of
right?
accurate history there, and then a larger story about the bigger circumstances of contestations over place and the complex set of negotiations that Native communities were going through as colonizers came into their homeland. And the sign, I think, is a provocation to dig more deeply into those histories. In the case of the one from Hadley, why I share that is that it was featured in the news last summer. After 89 years, Valley, so in Western Mass, the Connecticut River Valley historical markers get a facelift. And I was really quite stunned to know that the Department of Transportation has put a fair amount of funding into physically rehabbing these signs. So repainting them, cleaning them up. Many of them have become, have fallen into disrepair, but not revisiting the messages. And this, you know, the one in Hatfield simply says that part of Hadley was attacked by Indians during King Philip's War. Doesn't get us anywhere close to these fuller narratives, and it's in fact a narrative that is demonizing Native people, presenting them as the antagonists in a very simplistic way. And I think that this is a missed opportunity, because rather than just repainting them, what if we had a series of community conversations that could much more substantively get into what is being told and then what's being erased here. I would love for someone to take that project up. I don't have the bandwidth right now to do that in a full way, but these are in so many different communities and people know them, right? They drive by, they walk by them all the time. And so I think that they could help galvanize some of this work. I mean, what you were describing in the new installation in the museum is a kind of decolonizing project that involves these really thoughtful conversations and interactions with Native communities at the center. And I think that there's a lot of need to do that work, including around signage like this.
You can see the part of the Massachusetts State Seal there. We're not going to talk about that just yet, but we're going to go back to that. That's going to be the last issue. But in terms of repatriation,
Of these kinds of items and their stories.
okay, we have one more, some perhaps contentious issue. We have one question from the audience, and then we'll conclude. So this, of course, has to do with the image of Native Americans and the state flag or Massachusetts state emblem. So could you talk about that?
Right, so the deeper roots of this state flag, which I'm sure people have seen all over the place, is that it is derived, meaning it has changed over time, but it is derived from some imagery on the Massachusetts Bay Colony's seal, which featured a very stylized, I would say, stereotypical image of a Native person carrying a bow and arrow. The arrow is facing downwards. It's supposed to signify peaceful intentions. And there's a word bubble coming out of the Native person's mouth that says, "Come over and help us." And that was an expression not of something that an actual Native person said, but rather a Puritan and colonial expression of desire, right? The hope that Native people would be receptive to Christianity and to being colonized. And so that image has been contentious for a really long time. And today there's an active movement that is revisiting the state flag and thinking about whether this is not just appropriate, but desirable imagery to have going into the future. And I'm not, up to speed with the most recent actions on that, except to say that there has been a lot of advocacy coming from different communities across Massachusetts who are now, grappling with these histories and the fact that they are still very present in our landscapes today.
So I hope that helps give a little bit more framework of someone other than me, someone who is truly devoting all of their time and energy teaching this material and speaking about it, writing books and an article about Concord signs. So as I see it, we've been asked to talk about this tonight. And we could delay it, but other commissions, other bodies, and that's why I asked the question, which other commissions or bodies does she want letters from that are going to pass this issue and make it go to the select board, propel it forward. I know the DEI commission, they're going to, they're already there. So I just don't know if we wait, others are going to do what we are not doing. And I don't know how you feel about that. I'm willing to wait till November, but others may not be.
Right. So the request is not for the commission to write a letter necessarily. It's just to, give the general sense of whether you support the removal of the markers and some sort of temporary sign of just sort of an explanation of what's going on to the public. And if you support that general sense, then the town staff will take it over. She as deputy town manager will approach the select board, and she will draw from many different groups and create a recommendation, and then staff will be assigned to build teams and work together with groups and take it on, because this really is it's a town issue, and it's much larger than any single person or any single committee.
As you noted.
I understand, yeah.
Well, so we're essentially just would all be agreeing that there's a potential larger issue here that, Nancy spent a ton of time researching and has a lot of, her long report to back it up, along with Christine and all of her articles. I mean, I don't think there's anything really to disagree with. We're basically moving it out of committee, right? Just saying we support the town taking this up. Is that all we're being asked tonight?
That's right.
Okay.
I have a suggestion. These are difficult and sensitive topics, and I'm not sure how I feel about losing the voice of the citizens to town staff. No offense, Anne. But it does take it away from the community and the community at large. How are they engaged? And I think things like this sometimes benefit from professional moderation of the conversation. And it's a difficult thing when this is a very sensitive thing. Park Service has grappled with this for years and years. The Department of Interior now, obviously the whole Interior Department is looking at these kinds of things, but it's a delicate thing. And I think you can't just say, we voted one night that we were in support. I think we can say, I can support, we support looking further and in more depth and more broadly and more deeply. I have to educate myself. I've been trying to do that because this isn't an area I've dived deep into for a long time. And I think that's probably true of a lot of us. And there's an opportunity to bring more people into the circle rather than, it's like I feel like there's a juggernaut behind this.
But isn't that what they're asking for us to support them looking further into this?
That's what I
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's all they're doing. I mean,
but it's the consolidation, and then, we have our say, and then staff takes it and moves from there and does I don't know what.
But do we trust the town to do the town, the deputy town administrator is asking us to trust the town to look further into this. Isn't that what's being requested, Ann?
Does it include
It's going to be a very, very long conversation, obviously. And, Concord, prides itself and including all of the committees. And that's sort of why we're taking this approach.
Right.
It's
And
not
of course,
something that's gonna get it's not something that's gonna get
No.
finalized next week or next
no,
month.
no, I mean, it will be back to you probably for years, and certainly the HDC will have a say in this too, and there will need to be a formal application to them, just like every other change, in town center. So, there are going to be public hearings, public conversations.
Right. I mean, how can we say we don't want them to look at it? Doesn't make sense.
Well,
No,
Nancy, when you said that it might benefit from a third party, are you thinking of an example of another similar situation where there was an alternate path of engaging a third party, or?
I don't know exactly for this who would be appropriate to moderate a discussion like that, and I don't know exactly how to structure it so that it didn't become more divisive than unifying. But I know that people are trained to do that, and in my professional experience before retirement, there were people who came in from the outside, and some were more successful than others. Another area of sensitivity and when people can get their backs up and begin not to listen is when you talk about integrating the Black experience. And that gets, and then it's very important who you have talking to the broader group of people. And maybe it's more than one person that's part of that guidance, but I don't know. That may be what the deputy town manager has in mind, but I would hate to have this be the last time the commission was engaged, and I really think we should have Melissa here.
So Melissa did send an email. She
Okay.
can't vote. Alan, do you have that?
Let's see.
Or I guess I could try to bring it up on the screen.
I do have it. I just have to dig it out.
And Ryan also sent an email. I don't know if you want to share that too.
Well, I would think their voices would be important.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that he's not here. I want to tell Chessie, Anne and I both attended a forum in Sudbury. I think it was this summer. I don't quite remember now how long it's been. They had a forum on this topic about the tercentenary markers in their town. And at that forum, which I think might be available on YouTube, I'm not sure, but Native Americans did come and speak out about it very strongly. So that's one example of where Native American voices were heard. There are also the Concord Museum put together the People of Musketaquid Gallery just a few years ago, and they had Native Americans who worked with them in collaboration, and they designed a contemporary artist designed that beautiful turtle display with arrowheads.
Yeah.
So, we could reach out to them, but as people at the museum have told me, because I've been in discussions with them, I'm doing a project there, and those people are hard to get a hold of because they all have day jobs, and it's hard, they're asked by other groups who have similar concerns. So their time is precious. So it's hard to get them. We could consider sponsoring what Nancy's talking about, getting an outside group to come and have community engagement. That would be one way that our commission could continue taking the lead and not taking the lead, but keep a presence, in this discussion as the discussions move forward. We could facilitate that kind of programming. I really, as I have been working on this more and more, I see this, to me, the markers, they're just metal objects, but I've learned so much, and I have said this over and over, I see this process as an important educational endeavor for the whole town to get, like Nancy said, to get everybody on board and aware of what our Indigenous history is. indigenous people occupied our lands for 10,000 years. That's older. I'm in England, and so I've been thinking a lot about what that means. Stonehenge is not that old. And so that's a sort of iconic old thing that everyone knows about, that's in common, in people's common knowledge. And people, I think, would think that Stonehenge is a very, very old site. And it's really hard, I think, for people to get their minds around what 10,000 years means. And I put in my report that we've only been in Concord, white people have only been in Concord for 388 years. So I don't think many people, I certainly hadn't thought about this history. And I think this, to me, it's a really important and an exciting endeavor to get everybody to, raise awareness about these issues. I think it's a great thing.
Nancy, do you know the Sudbury Forum? Was it a commission who
I can send you the link. In my
curious whether
bibliography,
it was coming from the town putting it on, or whether it was.
There's a woman who she is a historian. Do you I don't remember her background. Maybe Anne, you remember, and she has her own private sort of organization. She got people from their historical society. She got they have a town historian. He weighed in. She had a panel, and then she invited these indigenous people too, and then they spoke, and then they broke out into the discussion. We had smaller discussions about it, and then everybody regrouped, and it was just really moving and very intense afternoon. And then but I can get her name to you. Look in my bibliography.
I will. I'll look it up on YouTube.
Is that in your bibliography, Nancy?
In the bibliography, yeah.
I started to listen. I thought,
and I also recommend that you go back and listen to Christine DeLucia's entire lecture about about this book, and it's very easy to find, because the way she speaks really well and talks about these issues in a very sensitive way.
I did find the emails from Ryan and from Melissa, if I may read them. From Ryan, in response to the question on which the deputy town manager and select board are seeking input, I do not favor removal of the current markers until the text and format of a new permanent marker has been discussed and debated and approved. I would thus vote against a proposal to remove the current markers and erect temporary markers. And then what Melissa wrote, in absentia, I vote to support removal of the markers, but feel it is important to replace them with something that is more comprehensive about the historical indigenous habitants of the area and the arrival of the English who established the town in 1635/36. I've seen both. We need to work closely with Gary Clayton and his committee, which is evaluating options for parcel 1693. That's downtown. So
that's a good addition.
I haven't mentioned that because I have been in correspondence with Gary too. So, and I agree with that. I wish that their commission would weigh in. But in his correspondence with him, he said he sees what they're doing as a separate issue from this. So it's not that I've ignored him. I'm just going by what he's already said. I wanted to, he read my report. He sat down with me and talked to it. I wish that he would be at this meeting, for example. I asked Luis, who's the chair of the Historic District Committee. I wrote to him today to say that we were probably going to discuss this. He and I had a long discussion. We sat down together for over an hour at the library. I just wish that more people would come to our meetings, because people are aware of this, but we need to hear more voices. As you've said, Nancy, we have community engagement. People just aren't showing up.
Maybe we're not the convening entity. And maybe, maybe we're not convening.
Right.
But we can urge the consideration.
Everyone wants our support, but no one wants to listen to us.
No, I don't think that's the case at all. I think The HDC will consider it on its own. The DEI will too, and I'm sure 2025. So each committee has a voice.
Okay.
And so I don't, as Nancy said, I don't think one committee is convening the others.
I'm just, what I heard you just describe as stovepipes.
What does that mean?
DC will consider it, DEI will consider it, our commission will consider it, and then somebody will put it all together and tell us what we said and what it means, and that's what I'm cautious about. I would like to talk with HDC and the DEI people and have that broader discussion.
Right, well, that's a possibility too. I mean, there could be a special meeting convened for multiple committees if you all think that that would make sense.
I just think this needs more careful consideration about how to do this.
Right.
And then before you ask the select board to consider it, I think maybe some kind of an update on the discussion in case they're not paying attention to their various committees might be one way, but you know, to bring this before the select board for a vote without doing a lot of homework might be difficult. But that's my opinion.
And as you know, having run a large organization yourself, it's, you know, someone does need to make a decision at some point. Otherwise, you know, you can talk forever and nothing happens.
So the line that we always got was, okay, by the moderator, the facilitator, okay, let's declare victory and move on. And we would put it somewhere else and move on. Anyway,
so, you know, you can sort of put it back into the middle and then they'll send it back out to all the committees and then put it back and send it back out. So that is a strategy too, rather than always keeping it out and no decisions ever being made, you know.
So it doesn't seem like there's any downside to waiting till November meeting, so we can maybe have everybody. Nancy, are you going to be back? You're back.
I'll be back.
Melissa might be back, but
I think she'll be back. I mean, she will be back whether, you know.
but she's also got it.
May I ask a question? Ann, do we need, is the assistant town manager looking for a immediate decision from us this evening?
I'm sure that's what she'd prefer.
Right.
I mean,
That's what I read. That's what I read in the document. Okay.
right.
And we heard there were a tremendous amount of words stated over the last hour, which in many ways made sense. And so I have a simple statement and then a simple question. I think I heard that one human being was offended by what they saw on the sign. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Recently, yes, just
Yes,
one.
okay. One person has come forward. So one person is offended. Good. So if somebody is offended, it needs to be looked into. How do we get this looked into? It's a simple statement. So, Nancy, I have a question.
Which Nancy?
Nancy Nelson.
Oh,
So,
me?
I have a question. Based on your words, and I don't want to say something that you didn't say, but I think I heard it. You're uncomfortable with us making a decision to move forward to send this to the next step to have people start looking at it. You feel more comfortable that we look at it. Is that what you're saying?
No,
I don't mean that we reach out to some entity to have them look at it, not have them
what
reach out
I
to
feel
anything.
comfortable with would be urging the town manager to do something to pull together a broader, deeper conversation.
But isn't that what they're asking?
Well, that may be what we're
Isn't
telling.
that what they're asking? Ann, is that what they're asking? Ann,
Aren't you have a question that is related?
oh, no, I just need an answer, excuse me. Ann, is that what they're asking?
I think they're looking for a short-term solution and some kind of report to the select board. But also are looking, well, certainly, this is not the beginning. They're also going to be looking into medium-term and longer-term solutions as well. But in the meantime, the town of Concord needs to show that it's being responsive,
Right.
and is taking this seriously, and needs to show some sort of effort, right, and some sort of action and communication to the select board.
Okay, so they're asking what we're talking about, that they want to look into it. And they want our support to have them look into it because somebody was offended. Is that correct? So that's simple. That's three simple statements. So I certainly support that. Now, if you want a motion, I'll make it. If not, I don't know what the next step might be because it doesn't sound like everybody's on board to have this go to the next step. That's all.
I just want to ask questions, Michael, to clarify what you're saying, because I'm with you.
Clarify. You're going to clarify.
And one of my questions is, because Anne, you also are a support staff to the HDC. Is this on their agenda too? Because you're asking, we're asking.
But I have a question. I hear you, Nancy. I hear, what relevance does it have if it's before that committee? Because maybe they're not going to look at it like we're looking at it. We're looking at it this evening. We are people who are compassionate about history. We're compassionate about our community, and we're sensitive to everybody's other sensitivities. Somebody was offended. We are being asked to have the town look into this matter. There's two simple sentences.
I'm not disagreeing.
So how do we not support having the town look into the matter that offended some human being?
I'm agreeing with you.
Thank you.
But I have, one other thing to say. It isn't just one person. Joe
Okay.
Colombo, who is a town
I
guide.
know.
Can I
know.
just finish?
Yes.
I let you speak, so it's my
Yes.
turn. Okay. He has told me that, he's told me repeatedly that he has a Native American friend who calls these signs terrorist signs. So there is more than one person. They're just not here to tell you that. That's one thing. And another question that I have for Anne, when we're talking about the replacement language, is there who is going to do that? Who has that been discussed? Let me put it a different way. Is our commission being asked to participate in that?
We haven't, the town manager has not put together her proposal yet. So certainly there will be numerous people involved, and I'm sure whoever wants to participate will be asked to.
Good, okay.
Any more discussion?
I was going to say something and I got lost. But
So is it possible for us to vote on the very narrow question of supporting the town responding to this complaint and looking into it, while also continuing this work as a commission?
Well, I also think that in the short term, they want to remove those 3 signs. Right, Anne? Isn't that part of the?
Right. The request from the deputy town manager was, do you support the concept of removing the 3 tercentennial markers and installing some sort of temporary explanatory piece?
So Jesse, that would be part of.
Okay. Is that separate from getting a general sense of whether we support the town looking into this? Or is that 2 separate questions? That seems.
Why can't we say we support having them look into it, but at this moment, we don't support removing them because we don't know if it really is discriminatory?
Nancy, do you have did you remember what it was?
I just think we should not focus on one complaint. And if the town needs help in responding to one person with a complaint, I have plenty of practice in doing that. and I'd be happy to help. But I think the broader question, I think what Chessie might be getting at, and maybe Nancy, I don't know, maybe we all feel like we support the ongoing investigation into the accuracy and sensitivity of the signs as they exist today. And we should continue that conversation. But I mean, this is like, give me an answer and I'll go to the select board and we'll get this done. And it is complicated. It's complicated.
Right.
That's all.
But
So
the
I
town
think
knows that.
the general sense of the meeting, I can't make a motion, or I'd make a motion about the general sense of the meeting. I'm not sure if that's what Chessie was getting at or not, but it sounded like it.
Yeah.
But I can't make the motion. And neither can you, I guess.
Yeah.
Alan, I'm curious, do you have a perspective on this? Or are you not allowed to give it as a chairperson?
I don't know, am I allowed to give an
course.
opinion of it?
Oh, yes.
I think we need some more research as to what, you know, if we take these signs down, what is going to be put in their place. And I agree.
But you do support them looking into this matter?
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
so why can't it be what I said?
But I don't support them removing the signs at this time unless there's.
Until it's, right, until it's determined that it's discriminatory.
No, don't use that word.
Yeah.
Whatever word it is, Nancy, whatever word it is,
Inappropriate,
look into it.
inaccurate.
There have been many people who have said that they are offensive.
I
and
know,
so
I'm
I think
aware.
that's a question. I'm sorry, I just have to put
But
them.
you don't,
because-
but you know, you cited Joe Palumbo has a friend. I cited I had a
I'm
friend.
not disagreeing with any of that. Yeah.
So that's
It's
no.
more than that. It's my reading. It's reading
I
and
know,
and writing what other people have said specifically about
but
these
that means that
artists
you
and
know.
artists, and they're
That
in my
means-
bibliography.
A discussion like this would be for when we get together with the HDC, with Gary Clayton, with everyone else. And then we can have these discussions.
Yeah,
So what are we, I guess I'm trying to draw to a conclusion. What should we do? What does everyone want to do? Should we just say that we're willing
Well,
to?
Does anyone want to, do we have a motion? From the members of the Historical Commission?
the full members has to
So
be.
it's only
Right.
Michael or I that can make it, or can the chair make a motion, I guess?
Yes,
Yeah, so it's the three of us.
okay.
Okay.
So,
And
but
we-
again, but I don't speak for the two of you, but I know that none of us want to move forward if we're uncomfortable with moving forward. So I don't think we're uncomfortable about moving forward. It sounds like we certainly don't want something removed if in fact it isn't, whatever word you want to use, Nancy, offensive or whatever it may be. So how do we get that done if we're not moving forward with having some entity on behalf of the town look into it? Can't we make a motion on that?
Maybe Chessie could just
With-
suggest without making a motion. You're,
Oh, gosh.
We need some legalese. We need some
Right.
legalese.
Nancy, I thought you said it so well.
It's going to be part
said
A
it so
and part
beautifully.
B. It's-
all right. It might be that you could write the deputy town manager back, say that the commission is fully in support of continuing the conversation about the accuracy and appropriateness of the tercentenary markers. And by the way, nobody said anything about Native people in the permanent memorial committee that I saw yet.
There's,
But don't say that. That's not.
No,
part of
is that what you
So
want to say?
we encourage the conversation to continue and to broaden. That's dangerous, but the more people you get, the harder the decisions are, or the more complex. So wordsmith that, I guess. Any legal advice?
And do you feel like we need to specifically say something about at this time, there's not enough information for us to consider the removal? I mean, it just feels very open-ended. As you know, as Ryan's email said, there's just, we don't know if it would be replaced with, what would the language be? So, but do you feel like based on what you were asked to get an answer on tonight, we have to specifically address that question? Or can we just do you think it's sufficient to just make a open-ended statement and leave it at that, like Nancy just proposed?
Okay, I think going back to what Michael said earlier about needing to sort of take it out of committee at the moment and allow the town to make some decisions. I mean, I guess the town can always make decisions on its own, but the town doesn't want to do that without the support of the committees, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's really looking for a general sense of how you feel about this and what you all are comfortable doing or having the town do. I mean, where I used to work in Waltham, and you know, in many organizations, commissions and committees and boards are sort of the policy folks, and the staff does the work, and we, you know, prepare, you know, proposals and plans and, you know, grant applications and send it to you all, and you're the policy folks, right? And you decide whether, you know, you can edit it, you can vote it up, vote it down, but it's been tricky because, you know, you all are doing the work. So I think it's more about sort of, you know, I guess we're hoping that you know, that allowing the town staff to do work. You know, we're professionals too, right? And we're professionals in this field. So we all can come together, create a proposal, and then send it back out to committee for the sort of policy review piece. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't that how most boards and committees operate? So
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I still wish our two members were here. Whoops, I'm sorry, I meant to raise my hand.
That's okay.
But they already wrote what their positions were, Nancy.
I know that.
If they put it in writing.
Yeah.
It's on the record.
So
let's.
that's not you. It's not a real vote.
No, but their positions have been,
They've
you know.
not had the benefit of this
Okay.
well-intended, well-informed.
So
We would like to see it come back to the commission for future discussion.
okay.
So don't take the signs down now.
Okay.
Is that right? I think that's what I heard.
Yeah, I think I'd like some clear direction from you all about
I would have a
what you are
different
comfortable.
direction, so
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm trying to find a way. To find a way of making a motion to say, our commission, you know, something like we make a motion that we do favor the removal of the signs because we know that they are out of date and are offensive, and they present a biased perspective of history. So while but we also want to support the effort of the town, of other constituents in town to participate in the discussion, something like that, to say that we agree, that we take a position, that we've studied these, because to me, they're from 1930, they are biased. I don't need to discuss that anymore. Just the tops of all the signs make them wrong. I mean, the state is considered. So I don't have any question. I think that they should come down. So that's not but I do want to show cooperation with others in town to show that, yeah, that we want to go forward. And I am worried that about this, how we're going to come about that the process of making a replacement for them before they're taken down is going to be onerous. So I think that we could take them down. I would, in my opinion, I would propose that we take them down, and with the determination that we're going to work hard to put a replacement up that's accurate. We are Concord. We are one of the most historic towns in the country. We get many more visitors than any other town, or most other towns in Concord. People are looking at them. Joe, if he were here, he would say every day he has to deal with this issue. That's what he tells me, that I'm not on the front lines, the town guides are on the front line. So it's not just one person. Every day that he's bringing visitors to our town, he's explaining these markers, and it's tiresome. And there are many other things to talk about in our town. So I think that our motion should say that we are in favor of moving towards removal, and maybe it doesn't have to be immediate, but when others in town would agree that they also are in favor of that, then we could come together on the timing and the way that we have a replacement for it. I know that's not a clear-cut motion, but that's what I wanted to say.
So what you're saying is to remove them and then study them. And we're saying study them and then remove them. Yeah, I like that.
Study them. I don't think they need to be studied. They're studied.
But they don't need to
There's
be
an
studied.
academic article, and we need to get that information out into the public. That's our job. That is a
Right.
job we can take on, right? We need to
So,
get the
so
information.
Nancy, what
Okay.
the town is saying is, again, where the town is asking, and sort of as Nancy Nelson had said, and as Michael said, this is not up to the historical commission. This isn't.
I'm not disagreeing. I think you think that I'm disagreeing, and I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm with
No,
you.
we know you're not.
No, we're not. Just let her, Nancy, let her finish saying what she wants to say.
Okay, go ahead.
Please.
The town has a whole team of professional staff people, right? They work in communications, they work with
Right.
the FBI,
Right.
they know government, they know history.
I understand. Anne.
Right,
I don't
they
know
know
what you're saying.
education.
I understand.
Okay.
I've heard you. I'm just trying to come up with a way that we could.
Yeah,
Someone else
Nancy?
write the motion.
Yes, sir. Nancy, please,
It's late.
let her speak.
Go ahead, Ann.
So the town has a wonderful team, and part of the wonderful team is all of the committees that also feed into this team. So you all maybe see the tip of the iceberg, but as staff people, we work together every day, 40 hours a week, and we can put together a proposal, and then send that proposal back out to all the committees and get the feedback. So that's really what this is about.
Right. So who's going to,
Can we just make a motion
agree with
in
you.
support of the town creating a proposal, and we look forward to considering the proposal?
Yes.
Ann, is that acceptable? Ann?
Yes. Let's see. So
Can that be an
So I
official
think
motion?
I mean,
that,
I can't make a motion, but
right. I think maybe that's a great, that sounds like a good motion. Do you also want to take votes on the other two items that were specifically asked for you to look at? And vote them up or down at this point? One of them is the removal of the markers, and the other, well, I guess the removal of the markers and temporary replacements. Do you want to vote on that at this point too, since that was the specific request, and have sort of two different?
I'd like to see two different, I think, motions for that. That's my opinion.
Unless you're uncomfortable voting on the other. Just a thought.
Wait a minute.
So I just have a question. Nancy Frizella, you are in support of removing the signs, is that correct?
I am.
Okay. So why don't you make a motion? Wouldn't that make sense?
She did.
Oh, she already made a motion to
Well,
remove it?
I was just.
I heard her word. I didn't hear,
What a motion
I didn't
would
hear her
be.
say I make a motion.
I didn't make the
Right,
motion.
like I think they need to be very concise.
I'm trying to respect everyone
emotions.
else, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we have a couple of motions. We have the tercentenary markers and the Jethro tree about removing those markers.
Well, the Jethro's tree is one of those markers.
Right.
So I think they need to be very concise, very clear motions.
I'm writing, so I'll come back.
And the motion that Chessie that you were talking about is different than those two. It's more for a discussion of the language to replace those with. Is that what?
You had said something about the town creating a proposal, and you all look forward to seeing what that proposal is. Did I get that right, Chessie?
Something along those lines. I guess I would say I think it would be important for all the reasons that Nancy Frisell at least stated, that if there is a motion that is voted down tonight about removing the markers, I think it would be important as a commission to signal that we are actually as a group very supportive of this whole endeavor. And it's not, I wouldn't want our not voting to immediately remove to be taken as, not supporting this being looked at in depth, because it's actually the opposite. And so Ryan would be against removing
That's what he said in his
at this
email.
time, and
Yeah.
Melissa said she would be for it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. But their votes, I checked in with the town manager today, town planner today, and she said that, you're not able to vote
Right,
via
right.
email. But the
Yeah.
town could
I was
certainly
just curious,
read
yeah.
those opinions aloud and share them with you.
Okay.
There's only 3 people voting tonight on anything, right?
Something, okay, this is just
You could give a sense of the meeting.
a sentence. I mean, if we broke it down into 2 motions, I would say I make a motion that the Historical Commission recommends removing the tercentenary markers after having studied the their contents. And then the second one would be, I make a motion that the Historical Commission fully supports the effort of the town to make a plan for temporary and then a
Permanent.
permanent replacement of markers.
Right. Was that a motion?
There are 2 motions, right?
I know. If you, 2
So,
motions.
okay, the first one would be, I make a motion that the Historical Commission recommends removing the tercentenary markers
Sometime.
I could stop there, but I'd like to link it up to with the knowing that it's contingent on the second motion, that there's a plan that will go forward to replace them with.
So if there was never a plan, to replace them, they would not be removed. You're comfortable with
Yeah,
that?
I guess, yeah, but I don't need the plan to be finalized. I just want to make sure we're going to have a plan, and that there's a that people are going to commit to, in a timely manner, coming up with either replacement information so that there's something there for people to read. And then followed by a permanent one.
Nancy?
So just a question. So we're just going to replace it 1 for 1 and correct the story on each flawed sign instead of maybe looking at incorporating information and acknowledgement in the memorial, the permanent memorial. You don't have to just put up 3 signs when you take down 3 signs.
That is all to be determined in a plan that will come before you again.
Because
I
nothing,
don't
as
think
far
we
as I
can.
know, nothing has been done on the memorial.
Right.
Not that I've seen.
Right.
But
And
they
it's
are not there yet. I've gone to all the meetings, so.
Who knows?
It is centered on one person, right? By their own language.
But
Gary
it's
Clayton.
not finalized. That,
No, well, I know.
but you're right. That's what I'm understanding. They're going for, and it's as I've said before, initially it was supposed to be inclusive of all histories that have not been correctly told. And it seems to have gone in a different direction, whether it will go back to, because I think the more people that are aware of all of these issues, they
Mhm.
will think differently. I'm hoping that they will, but that's,
Yeah,
I don't think that's pertinent to what we're doing here now.
it's important.
And in terms of taking down 2 signs and putting up 2, I don't think it has to be 2 signs that replace it. There are a lot of monuments in Monument Square. So we don't want to keep cluttering up Monument Square, and hopefully whatever they do
Absolutely right.
in the permanent
Exactly.
memorial will
Take care of that.
yeah, kind of balance that and make a quieter, more contemplative space.
Which includes being inclusive of a lot of people.
I'm
Yes.
trying to raise my hand because
Yes.
Alan has the power to recognize each of us, by the way.
Yes,
Or
I
not.
said, I
Or
said
not.
Nancy, I said
No.
Nancy.
I think I lost my thought again. The interesting thing to me as a landscape architect, knowing very well the Sasaki firm, not knowing but hearing reports about how much has been put into the Sasaki contract, and I still don't have any solid information about that. You're going to get monuments. You're going to get something fairly monumental, fairly structured. So I think that's just something else to be aware of. Has nothing to do with Nancy's motion. It just has to do with how things get resolved in the end. So sorry, there is a motion on the floor, I guess.
But I second it. If the motion's on the floor,
We have a motion and a
Do we have-
second.
Which, sorry, just for clarification. So,
here we go.
is it this motion? The Historical Commission recommends removing the tercentennial marker or I still can't say the word.
Oh, I know it's so hard.
Tercentennial after studying their contents, knowing that this is contingent on the second motion, that there's a plan to replace them. Did I get that right, Nancy?
Like that, yeah, I think that's a bit more concise than what I said. I think that's good.
Good. I second it.
And we have it, motion seconded. Now we will take a vote. Members,
I vote yes.
Michael, Nancy?
Yes.
I vote in favor.
And I vote in favor. But I think the second part of that motion is very critical to the first part.
And is it worded correctly?
It
As
just got
precisely as we want it to be.
It just got passed.
Yeah, I'm hoping that.
You voted for it.
I know.
Okay.
I'm happy with that.
Okay. On to the next one. Other business?
Do you want to ask how the associate members feel, or?
I don't have anything else to say.
Jesse?
Okay.
Well, I just have a few thoughts. No, I'm just kidding. No, that was good.
We want everyone to be happy.
Other business. Demolition review process and the Historic Commission membership. And
Right. Oh,
And membership? Oh, I didn't see that.
I took, that's no longer on the agenda.
You
Actually,
re-
that was a
you removed
early
that?
draft.
Okay. So I guess we just have one demolition review.
Well, no, sorry. So the other piece of number 5 was Jethro's tree. So I had sent out
Oh.
just a historical report trying to sort of rise to the challenge of what Christine DeLucia had suggested, that we sort of look at the tree from the perspective of Indigenous people. And I know I'm certainly not the person to write that story, but I thought it might be helpful to at least put together what I've learned. And then obviously, as a part of this whole process, there will be Indigenous people really, drilling into it and weighing into that. So I did prepare a PowerPoint, but I think maybe it would be more appropriate to show that at one of the historic issues forums or something. And if there's any sort of red flags there that you think that are inaccurate or should not be shared because they're insensitive, please, let me know, because I'll check certainly with town staff too, because this is all part of this very, very complicated, sensitive process. But I just wanted to let you know, and I hope you all did receive that. And if you have any thoughts, I'm happy to hear them.
Now we
that's
know
that.
Jethro's name.
Right, Hatumish, Hantumish. And then so for the other business, I put in the demolition review process. So we currently have 3 demolition reviews, and then there's one more coming in, and that's going to be for the school. And I don't know, I just wanted to get a sense from you all whether, do you feel as if I'm bugging you every single time that these demolition reviews come in? I mean, in the bylaw, it says that, there's like a designated person. So if that would make it, if people feel like they're getting too much email, would you prefer to have one person work on it for 3 months and then shift to a different person for 3 months? Or do you all like to hear what's happening and want to be in the loop, basically?
I would feel that way.
Yeah, I'd rather go through the emails. I'd rather stay in the loop.
Okay. All right, just wanted to get a sense of that.
Mhm.
And I wanted to let you all know too that Elizabeth, the town planner, she had asked, I think, GIS to find out how many more buildings will be subject to demolition review in the next few years. And I forget, I think it was like 4,000 buildings each year will be added to the list of reviews. So I'm just warning you that
Is that buildings or dwellings?
building.
4,000 dwellings a year.
Right, because since the bylaw changed, where it's every 50 years, any building that's 50 years or older,
Right.
rather than, I think it was before 1940 in the past.
Right.
So now, because.
Oh, okay, I get it, yes.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
so I
so-
thought you meant there'd be 4,000 requests. I thought
no,
the 4,000 requests.
That's what I thought
There'll
too.
be
Keep
another-
Alan busy.
Right, there's a
there'll be another
potential.
4,000 subject to review.
Sure, yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
So in the next, in the next few years, it's going
Busy.
to be very busy. Yeah.
Nancy,
A thought that has occurred to me many times is, how do we expand the membership of the commission? Because this is a very small commission,
Mhm.
and I know people are having trouble getting people on their committees and commissions, but I'm just curious about that. If the question is really, would it be a good idea? And how to do it.
Right. Well, that was the other thing that I wanted to report on too, that the historic preservation plan, as you know, the funding is in place. And the town is just about to award the project to Heritage Strategies out of Pennsylvania.
Good, good, good.
Right, right. So that is an excellent question to bring up through, because the next year is going to be a huge planning process for the town of Concord, not just the historical commission, but the HDC, and heritage tourism is going to be a part of it. MBTA communities, and membership and sort of the nuts and bolts too. So start pulling together these questions about, you all, I'm sure, have ideas about what you'd like to see for the town of Concord when it comes to historic preservation. So if you could start putting together those ideas, that would be great. And of course, pretty soon we'll start introducing, bringing the consultants into these meetings too, so that you can share that with them. And I think they're going to be having a public forum and obviously reaching out to town staff and many other stakeholders as well. So it's very exciting. I hope you're excited. I'm excited.
That's the kind of facilitation I was thinking about.
That's great. Right. Right. And so there are other grants out there to do exactly the same thing. And I guess Heritage Strategies, they're currently working with Freedom's Way on some sort of survey, like interpretive survey, and I think developing themes, for the 40 something communities that Freedom's Way is involved with. So, and they also worked on the management plan for Freedom's Way, and worked in Sudbury last year. So they really know this area very well, even though they are out of state. So I think you'll be happy. I think this is a really good fit.
That's great. That's great news.
And it was a little bit tricky because there was a lower bidder, but we were able to disqualify them because they didn't submit certain items that were required. So
Didn't quite need what we wanted them to do.
right, and the proposal and the the references for Heritage Strategy, they were truly stellar. So I think this is going to be great.
Do we need to go over the demolition review addresses or anything, or just with the emails coming up?
Sure, I can send you an email about those. I've just been so swamped the last few
Okay,
days.
no worries.
But so there's one at 51 Revolutionary Road from 1955, 895 Main Street from 1960, and 45 Minuteman Drive from 1960. But I haven't had a chance to look into the streets.
Okay.
Yeah, but
What was the one on Main Street? What number on Main Street? 18.
895, 895.
Oh,
Where is that, Alan?
it's before Route 2. Yeah, before Route 2. I don't know off the top of my head. I thought it's a little bit after Elm Street.
Oh, okay. I know where you mean.
Yeah, before the bridge.
Gotcha.
I'll try to send this out either tomorrow or next week.
Okay. And I guess is there any other, are there any minutes to accept or anything, or?
Not this month. Again,
Okay,
remember we're short staffed, so.
yep, okay. I guess if no one has any other business, we can make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Nancy,
Yeah. So,
all in favor? Michael?
aye.
Aye.
Who is that? That's Peter.
Have a great night.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Thank you.
Everybody.